Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Homewrecker podcast. I am the Golden Greek Alex Arion, joined as always by my beautiful, lovely, gorgeous, amazing trophy wife, the lovely Monique. Monique, how are you today?
I am awesome today, thank you. How are you?
Oh, wow. I'm
Yeah.
doing fan-freaking-tastic, as always.
Absolutely.
Wow, you went there right away. Wasted no time.
Nope.
So, uh, we're about to introduce to our audience our guest, but we just had a discussion. We're recording this introduction now after we've already had
Yeah.
the discussion. But I'm gonna just say that everybody's in for a treat. Open your mind. Try to let down any barriers that you have, any preconceived notions about the world and anything,
Just listen.
and just kind of listen and try to have an open mind because, wow, that's all I gotta say is wow. This was probably one of my favorite guests that we've. I mean, I love it. All the people we talked to, we've had just fantastic guests. Some friends of ours, some people that we met just through the podcast. This was probably one of my favorites. I mean, granted, it's fresh; it just happened and everything, but wow, like wow. And I'm gonna say we're gonna have her on again for sure.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I just have a feeling that we're gonna be talking to our guest a lot. I hope anyway.
Oh my gosh.
Because,
I love her. I know I
wow.
say this about everyone. I'm like, I love her. And I know I
I'm
say that
telling you.
about everyone, but I felt
Wow.
like we were really on the same frequency with so much. And as you listen, you'll hear, like, for our watchers, you're going to see my face, and I'll be looking at Alex, and I'll be like, oh my gosh, with stuff that she's saying. It's stuff that I've said. For those listening, for our hearers, you're going to hear us, and I'll say something like, wait, we've talked about that. And it's just, it just made me feel like, yes, I am. Like, I am on the right path, because everything that I felt inside in my core about what I think is really happening, and then here's this other person and they get it. It's not just something I'm making up. And I felt like we really were tapping into the collective and tapping into each other's energy.
It was very, just what a great conversation. And I mean, even if you're not, you don't believe in any conspiracies, you don't believe in you just buy everything that that you've been told your entire, whatever, if you believe the official narrative of everything, hey, that's cool.
That's okay.
That's great. I still think you can get something out of listening to this conversation. And I'm excited to get to it. So without further ado, and actually really quick, we mentioned it last week, and I put it in the show notes last week, at Human Vibration on Twitter.
Yes.
Just go and check out the profile and start with the pinned tweet. Good luck. Have fun. Be open-minded. Just be open-minded. That's it. That's all I can tell anybody.
Check out not just her tweets, but the threads that she makes. Like, check it all out, because there was stuff that made me think, and then I keep going and I'm reading the thread. I'm like, oh, whoa. And she brought this, and I was thinking about that. There's just so much information, and it's just, we always tell people, we want to put information out there for you, and you do your own research. You come to your own conclusions.
Absolutely.
This is a great place to look at things from a different perspective and try to say, like, how does it make you feel, and what does it make you think, and does it make you question anything? But absolutely.
Well, I mean, what we always say, question everything. Don't just accept things that are told you. Question everything.
Yes.
If it's something we say, question it. Do your own research. Don't
Yes.
believe anything I say. I don't want anybody to believe me. I want you to go and just figure it out for yourself.
Yes.
But I think just a very, it's hard to put into words. It was just a very, I guess, enlightening. I don't know if that's even the right word. I can't explain it, but just Jay had so much information and just articulated it so well. It was just it was fantastic. I'm just really excited. So I say, without
Yes.
further ado, let's get to the interview with JK, who is at Human Vibration on Twitter. I think you guys are going to enjoy it. We sure as hell did. So check it out. Here we go.
So we're here with Human Vibration, aka Jay. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Yes, thank you.
Hey Monique.
Hi.
Hey Alex. Hey Monique. It's
Hi.
so nice to be on your show. I'm really happy to meet you guys and to talk with you a little bit before we got rolling. And I love what your spirit of this podcast is, and I'm so excited to talk to you guys.
Yay,
Awesome.
thank
Yeah,
you.
we are pumped to be talking to you. We actually, in the show that just came out last week, I put in the show notes, and I mentioned it on the show too, for people to look at your Twitter, and I said, start with the pinned tweet. Good luck. So
Yeah,
I wanted
good
to
luck.
prime people for our conversation, and just like kind of like, we're going to go some places, I think, and maybe hopefully blow some minds, open some eyes, get people
Open some eyes.
thinking a little
exactly.
differently, hopefully.
Just a fresh perspective. We
Yeah.
don't need any new information. We just need a new way to look at all of the old information.
There it is.
And I think that's what I'm all about. So
Yeah, awesome. So we were talking a minute ago, and I figured we may as well just start with, how did you get into, like, you're known for your Twitter account, right?
yeah.
So how'd you get into all that?
I'm known for my Twitter. I started my Twitter in January of 2020. I'm known for my Twitter now, but a little bit about how I got to starting a Twitter is I've always been a really curious person. I've always been a contradictory thinker. I've always been even in school, I was always like the annoying kid that was raising their hand, being like, well, what about this? You know, always kind of thinking like that. Always taking like what we're looking at and then trying to see it from a different angle or vantage point or perspective or something. And to the point that almost like that, it just became my thing. Like no matter what subject it was, I could be kind of guaranteed to, even if it was contradictory from what I even believed, I found myself always taking an alternate view just to play that role. And devil's advocate, it's like playing a devil's advocate. But
Sure.
you know, and so that was just something that my brain always did. And you know, being curious, I think over time, as I got older, I gravitated towards a lot of conspiracies, and I think that a lot of curious people, you know, share that. You don't get into conspiracy theories if you're not a curious person.
Right.
You know, you really don't care. You know, there's no reason to even like, you know, try to open that door if you're not curious. And I think for a really long time, I was into conspiracies in, you know, with the spirit of I was gonna. If we could just look at, you know, if we could just go down the right rabbit hole, you know, maybe we'll find the truth.
Mm-hmm.
And I was really good about like looking at all the, you know, the anonymous blog postings and the Reddits and the message boards and you know, kind of like conjecture sleuthing. I was really good at that stuff, and that served me. And I found a lot of things, and it was really fun. And that was kind of like my relationship with conspiracies, was trying to like understand like the darkest, craziest path, just to get a handle on it. Because I really believed at the end of the day, all the big stories, we just weren't getting the truth. We weren't getting the truth, and so we have to find, you know, well, why aren't they telling us the truth? Well, let's find out. Well, it wasn't until really January of last year, of 2020, when I started looking at everything in a different way. I started realizing that I was getting really lost down rabbit holes. I was like only in the dark, and I was kind of following these paths that had been created for me to find, like all these little crumbs that I would one to the next, to the next, to the next. And I felt like the information sources were getting like murkier and murkier, and it was like 4chans and Reddits and all stuff. So it was just getting darker and darker and darker. And I had this personal revelation in January about a very specific case that I am so curious about, and that I'm so like passionate about, and I have an encyclopedic knowledge of all of the things of the case from a conspiracy standpoint, and that's JonBenet Ramsey. Mm-hmm. The murder, the death of JonBenet Ramsey, and that is a decades-old case. It happened in 1996, so it's been almost 24 years now, almost coming up on a quarter century of this crime being unsolved, seemingly unsolvable. It was kind of always a fascinating case for me. I remember when I was in college, I had my a personal computer, and my own laptop, and I remember having internet access and looking at JonBenet stuff back then, and looking at all these message boards and conspiracy chats, and really getting into this idea that she was ritualistically murdered. A really dark, the darkest situation that happened to her, and that's where pretty much where I existed with what I thought about the case, for my adult life. And then again, January of last year was this, almost out of nowhere, I had this new understanding of the case where I saw it in a completely different way. I had this new understanding of technology. I had this new understanding of media and manipulation of media, and also I have a background in digital design and just the digital representations of reality, 3D graphics. All these different interchanges were kind of in my brain, and I found this website called thispersondoesnotexist.com, and this website for me was, I think, the brain training exercise that I required to make the leap. If I had not seen this website, I don't think any of this would have happened. I don't think my Twitter would have happened. I don't think anything. I wouldn't have figured out about JonBenet. So I've been looking on this website. Thispersondoesnotexist.com, and it's a repository of faces that appear to be like human faces, like someone you would just see on their Facebook profile. Just click and you see a face, and then you refresh in the face and refresh in the face. But what you have to realize is none of these faces are real. These faces are fabricated. These faces are computer-generated fabrications of faces, like a computer-generated ideation of a face, and you begin to see anomalies. Once you understand that it's not a real face, you start to see some weird stuff going on with the ears or the background.
Yes.
There's weird stuff happening, mutants kind of, and you're how did I miss this on the first couple of months?
Right.
How did I even miss this? But it's interesting because what happens is your brain is expecting to see a face, and your brain is a really sophisticated facial recognition engine, and because of that, it becomes really efficient with its facial pattern recognition, and it will almost explain away anomalies. It just won't see them. It just will zoop. You just can't even see it, and your brain just eliminates that from your cognition. You can see it with your eyes, but you can't cognate it with your brain. And so for the first couple of images, you don't notice any of these anomalies, but after time, your brain, that part kind of dulls and dulls and dulls, and then all of a sudden you're what is going on with these faces? And they all look really fake. So I had done that a few times, that exercise, kind of going to that website and getting to the point where I could clearly see all the faces were fake. And a few days later, I looked again. I was just a hobby. When I look at the JonBenet face, dive back into that, my favorite case.
Yeah.
And the first thing, I just Googled her name, and the first thing that I noticed was that she looked fake. I was oh, am I on the website again? What? Oops, what happened?
Yeah.
I saw her face looking back at me, and my gut visceral reaction was, this is not a genuine human face. This is a digital. These eyes are not real. The face is the facial shapes, the nose and mouth and hair and all these things, but it's not a real human face. It felt to me like a digital creation.
I want to talk about that because the first time I went to the website, so Alex told me about it. He's you got to check this out. I'm okay. And I am really good at picking up flaws, which I don't know if that's a good or bad thing.
Did you see it right away?
Right away,
yeah.
I found
that's very rare.
so many things, and I'm looking at it oh my god,
most people don't see that.
I thought it was a joke. I thought it was a joke because it was supposed to be so obvious.
Wow.
The teeth, a lot of them.
Oh yeah.
You see the teeth, the eyes. The eyes are really big.
They're always soulless, empty eyes.
Yeah.
And also too, there's something about it. There's either the reflections not there or off. There's specks. The neckline, there's issues. There's so many different things. There was one we saw where it was actually they were gonna put glasses on the guy and then maybe faded it out, and you could see a reflection or something. And I'm just this has to be a joke. Obviously this is fake. And there was just something about it. And I'm just
So you had a totally different reaction. You kind of you were like, "What is this site? Why do people even look at this?"
I was like, "Are they, like, how photoshopped are these?" And so then we talked about JonBenet, and my problem with every picture I tried to look at her, it was so blurred. It was almost
very blurry.
A lot of blurry, and I feel like I can't really see anything. And I'm like, okay, and then I'm like, these seem really photoshopped. And I know they say, she's a little girl in beauty pageants and all this makeup, but I was just like, I don't know. It was just something weird. So
there's an inauthenticity to the photos that she has. There's an excess of them, first of all. Like, for a girl that only participated in pageantry for 1 year, from age 5 to 6, I mean, I don't know, when she went to school, she was doing so many pageants and taking so many pictures and winning so many trophies and she only participated in like a handful of pageants, but there's these like photos from the crime scene that show this trophy room that just has like 80 trophies in it. It feels like the set dressing of this scene was a little excessive. And the photography is really important. There's just so much of it, and it just got avalanched onto the public. First in little drips. There was a few photos that got released. The first 2 photos, one was one where she's wearing this magenta t-shirt, and it's the very first photo, and her eyes are like big and black, and she has blue eyes, so it's very significant that the first photo of her have the wrong eyes, because her eyes are significantly, they're like crystal blue, and so for her to have shark eyes on her missing persons photo, because at first it was a missing persons case when they thought she was ransomed with the ransom note.
Right.
I'll get into that. But so the first image of her is this. It looks like a digital creation, and there's this magenta shirt she's wearing, and the second photo is her in this really elaborate magenta pageant dress, which is really similar to kind of like the Honey Boo Boo pageant dress that we see all the time now. Like this particular magenta dress has found its way into, again, like these scenes. Like, there's even a thing of Anderson Cooper with like the Honey Boo Boo dress in the background, and Tom Hanks holding like this Honey Boo Boo dress. But it's not the Honey Boo Boo dress, it's a JonBenet dress, repackaged. It's interesting that this case just, even though it's old, it's still around. It's still enveloped into our collective conscious. And even today, there's new news about JonBenet Ramsey's death and murder. We haven't gotten any closer to solving it, but there's like headlines about. There's even a new documentary on Netflix. There's a new 2020 thing, and a new 60 Minutes thing just came out.
Jeez.
This is all within, it's excessive for this case. I mean, we are coming up on the 24th, almost 25th anniversary, but it's like, it's just been going on for a really long time. This case is fascinating on a lot of levels, and the pageantry is something that we kind of talked about. The photos are such a big part of it, because I think it was, from how I view the case, the photos themselves kind of proved as this brainwashing technique and tool to saturate our consciousness with photos of images that are not real, but we are told they're real. And so it's like we're being shown X and told Y. And even though our brain knows X is X and Y is Y, and over time, if we're shown X and told Y enough, our brain will just like a railroad track, will just immediately like flip its little way, and you go this way and go that. Our brain will begin to do that. Our brain will begin to, without our knowledge, without our really foresight or understanding, or our brain will just begin to switch over into this new way of thinking and just accept all these things as real when they're not. And we see them as real even when actually, when you really examine them, we start to notice some anomalies. If we look at them with a very specific set of eyes, Monique, you've already got this like natural inclination for it, but I'm so fascinated that you could see it when you first visited the site, because I couldn't, for sure. Even now, sometimes I go back and the first picture I see, I can't tell. I'm like, God, this site's good. Like, even me, human vibration, that's like, everyone's fake. This person's fake. I call everyone fake. And sometimes I'm like, you got me, website.
I compared. So I was like, okay, I'm looking at these pictures, and I compared it to pictures of like myself and my family. Because I wanted to see if I could feel a difference, if I could see a difference. And one of the things that was weird, and I mean, one could say it's just because I know my family when I see the pictures, but I just felt more life.
And the
And
life in the eyes, 100%.
and so like
the life behind the sparkle.
yeah, it was just, it had a different feeling. It's
the
hard
eyes,
to explain.
the eyes either have it or they don't. Like we've heard that, and those eyes are the windows to the soul.
Mhm.
Right.
And I feel like when we see these images that are digitally composed, they're voids. They're not windows to the soul, but they're voids to the abyss. They're just like, there's nothing there. There's no human spark. There's no light behind the eyes. And it's weighty. It's like a shark eye, it's flat. Yeah.
I know you wanted to, and on the theme of people who weren't real, I know you wanted to bring up a certain person.
I mean, I know with the staying with the JonBenet thing just for another minute or two, we were talking about the pageants, and you did some research into those pageants.
Oh
yeah.
Even like with her mom and the pageants and stuff like that. So do you want to just talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, about the pageant. So this was one after I had already started to understand that I needed to look at this case in a different way. Let me approach it in a different way. Maybe if I'm right about her not being real, like I gotta take a new look with that as my lens.
Right.
And one of the things I kept thinking about was the pageantry, the pageants themselves. Like it was really a blinding portion of the story. It was such a big part of the story. And the pageants allowed for many things within the story. The pageants allowed for this hypersexualization of this young girl because she was being paraded around seemingly. It allowed for this umbra of suspicion to be placed over the parents for seemingly putting their innocent young angel in harm's way, dressing her up like a French prostitute and parading her in front of middle-aged men to be judged for her appearance.
Right.
It's crazy. It's pretty crazy when you see the pictures, and she looks like a little harlot. I don't know what to say. Like she looks like she's the epitome. They made JonBenet the epitome of light and dark. The angel purity, and also the vespers of adult darkness. They and she looks like Marilyn Monroe. Like they made her look like an adult in a little angel child's body. So that goes back to, again, the visualization. So anyway, I knew that the pageants were a big deal because the pageants were a mechanism to allow for so many other parts of this case to blind us, like to take us in all these directions. Because without the pageants, we wouldn't have had all these ideas about the mom, ideas about the dad, ideas about neighbors, photographers, all these things. Like it really allowed the case spider web to go really wide and far away from the center, far away from the truth. So the pageants, I seem to keep saying, look at the pageants. And all it took was just a little bit of digging to just literally like one layer back from the onion, peeling the onion back, to realize that these pageants don't, the particular pageants, the world of pageantry exists. Child pageantry it happens and it's weird. But the world of JonBenet's pageant, the pageants that she is supposed to have won, that world doesn't seem to exist outside of the context of JonBenet. It's almost as if she was the first, last, and only contestant in any of these pageants. They only existed the year that she did it. Nobody else has ever competed in those pageants. No future pageants of those things. I go into great detail on each of in my thread, and I kind of dive into each of the pageants. And I was sharing this in real time. I was like looking at these things in real time and going like, nope, there's another one. And like I was looking at each pageant, like let's look into this one. Here's the next one she's supposed to win. Let's look into that. And I think that's what made the thread kind of magical, is it wasn't really pre-planned in a way. It was more of like, hey, I'm looking into this case. I'm finding some really crazy stuff. I'm going to share this with everybody because I think something big is going down here, and I can't really share with anybody else in my life. I'm just I just have to be normal, quote unquote.
Right.
So I was like, so
fuck normal.
Let me just share this out. Yeah, fuck normal. As last year has taught me, fuck normal. Sure. But yeah, so the pageants, once I realized that the pageants themselves were up for scrutiny in a way that had never been done before. Nobody's ever looked at the pageants. Why would we look at the pageants?
Right.
Why?
Yeah.
Why would we look into the pageants? There's no reason to.
Right.
That goes back to my contrarian thinking. That goes back to the way that I've always approached everything in my life. I've always gone, hold on, let's take a step back. Let's play this game called look at it from another angle. And it's always served me, and even though it annoys the hell out of some people in my life, and always had, and been an Achilles heel for me personally at times, I really think that it's required is like just a new way of looking at things. And so the JonBenet realization that this explosion into our news cycle could be a fabricated kind of like Hollywood theatrics instead of like a real explosion. Like it really was. It was a Hollywood production for all intents and purposes. And I kind of want to jump into the technology of JonBenet.
Yeah.
Going back to what we talked about with this persondoesnotexist.com, the website with the generative, the faces, where every time you refresh it's a fake face. So the technology behind that website is called GAN, G-A-N, and that's Generative Adversarial Networks. And what that means is it's machine learning based on inputs of information, of data sets. And these inputs can be anything. It can be cars, where you feed it 1,000 photos, 1 million photos of cars. You feed a machine 1 million photos of cars, and then tell it, give me a car that looks like this type of car. And it will. It will take all those cars that it learned and categorized and indexed and scrutinized, and then it will be able to output an interpretation. Depending on how sophisticated the machine is, the interpretation can be really extraordinary, even better than what we could imagine in real life. Or it can look like or lifelike, a lifelike representation. Or it can be really shitty and look like like those faces where the ears are over here. The wheels could be all falling off or something. But so GAN. With what it could do for cars, like you could also feed it faces and facial features, and then have it output. If you imagine this machine learning software gobbling up our social media, our Facebook photos, our Instagram photos, every node, every tiny point every data point that we feed into the machine, it learns something about us. It learns something about how we operate, how we think, what we look like, how we look like when we're doing the things that we do.
Yeah.
It begins to understand the animation element of the human experience, and then it can learn that. And so this technology to take in these inputs and export something that appears like that, this has existed for a long time. This is not new today. It exists today. We see it today. We see these really sophisticated, even Snapchat filters where you can have like a puppy dog ears tracking your face as you go around, or and it can do some sophisticated things. It's not just puppy dog ears. It's whole identities can be layered on. Like an entire other face can be put upon my face. An entire other being can be put upon my being, and I just am the background puppetry, the digital puppetry that's kind of operating as an overlay upon me. And that technology is kind of new to us because we're experiencing it through our social media channels, and it's kind of, we see it all the time now, but that technology is not new. It's just new to us. And that technology has existed for a really long time, for many, many, many decades. And I believe that technology is what allowed the JonBenet story to take place, to be created. I believe JonBenet Ramsey is not a true living, breathing human being. I believe that she always was and always will be a pixels, existing in pixels and on paper only. And she never actually existed in the world as you and I do. And I think that's not, I think that sounds wild, but I don't think it's that uncommon. I think that many people, idols, traumatic victims, I think that there's unimaginable number of people that we believe to be true human beings amongst us, but they actually never existed in real life. They are just projections, identities, creations, characters. A lot of maybe stars, Hollywood stars, maybe never existed in the way that we think they are. We think they exist. They are just playing a role, literally playing a Hollywood role.
Yeah.
And that technology, it's not just tangential to the story, it's actually core to the story, because JonBenet Ramsey's father, if you guys know the kind of nitty-gritty of the story, he was a successful businessman. His company, Access Graphics, was acquired by Lockheed Martin in the early 90s. That's the reason they moved to Boulder. Access Graphics was a computer kind of reseller. They were $1 billion company in the early to mid 90s, and they didn't even make anything. So that tells you that they were involved in some high volume transactions of some high dollar equipment. And what was this equipment doing, and what was their relationship with Lockheed Martin? Well, this equipment was what was running these sophisticated 3D rendering, these microchip, these software systems, these chip systems, these microchips to allow for 3D graphics capabilities that were being introduced into like a computer gaming system, like Sega, 3D gaming systems at the time.
Yeah.
Really low level, like what the public was seeing at the time. The 3D gaming systems that we were seeing at the time were like super silly.
Yeah.
But the capability for what we have today existed then, like the same chips, the same graphics. It's just what we saw, what we were allowed to see.
Of course.
It wasn't there. You know, it's always decades, light years ahead. You know, light years ahead. And so that technology, so it's so weird to me, or it's just too coincidental that the technology to allow this to even happen, this notion of a manufactured identity, that this is the technology that her dad did. Like, what?
Yeah.
You know, like, you know, I feel like the fabric of reality, the fabric of deception, it is so woven. And once you see it for what it is, you'll see all these things connect. There's this one photograph of Ghislaine Maxwell in the background of a JonBenet Ramsey photograph. And for me, when I first found that image, that was, it was very early. That was in January, when I was first kind of being like, what is going on?
Yeah.
But when I saw that image, I knew that this was a physical manifestation of the Ouroboros, which is the snake eating its own tail, which was the story collapsing in on itself. Ghislaine Maxwell in the background of the JonBenet Ramsey photo could mean two things. It could mean that this story is so incredibly large that JonBenet Ramsey was, in fact, mixed up in the entire Epstein scandal, validating an unimaginably horrific waterfall cascade of unspeakable horrors and crimes in that direction, if these stories were to meet and be true.
Yeah.
If JonBenet Ramsey was essentially also an Epstein victim. That was one part. My brain was, I could have gone that way, but I was already tipped towards this other way of looking at it, and I went, no, there it is. That is my tell. That is the tell for me that this is so unbelievably. I'm seeing the weaving together again of the deception. This is not the truth revealing itself to me. This is the woven deception revealing itself to me. This is the snake coming back to eat its own tail. This is the Ouroboros. This is for me, and that was like, oh, it's on. We're doing this. This girl did not exist. Yeah.
People are gonna ask, why would they do that?
Why
would they do that?
God, why would they do that? Okay, why would they do that? Because everything in our world is fake. Our entire existence, our entire human endeavor, what we understand as the slow and steady march from cradle to grave, we're on a false path. We're on a falsely paved path and we're headed in the wrong direction. And we're put on that direction by people that love us and that don't know better, and because they were put on that direction by people that loved them and didn't know better. But I think we're at this weird time when technology is at a certain point, our understanding is at a certain point. We are aware in a way that we've never been before. We're kind of looking around going like, shit, we're heading in the wrong direction. You're like, what? Why? I think that we're now like, we have like a collective, I believe, an inner light that is shining really, 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 really bright. An inner light that is combating all the false light, all the deception. Deception is nothing more than shadow play. Deception is the manipulation of light and shadow. That's it. And whoever controls the light controls the severity of the shadows. And I think that when we're given all of our information through the media, that is a form of false light. And we are taking in all of that information all day long, all day, every day, false light, in the morning, in the afternoon, and that's just one portion of it. But going back to the path being paved, the human endeavor being paved, like everything we do, from the dream that we're sold about what it means to be a successful human, I don't think any of that's real. I think that I'm a walking quote unquote success story in the sense that I followed that path, and it's given me a beautiful existence. And it has served me, but that doesn't mean it's real. I can still go, God, I'm just part of the machine too. Like I played the game. But I'm actually making very conscious and very specific moves to untether myself from a lot of like the chains that of the American dream, of like all the things that I really believed I needed to make myself a whole person. I'm actually now going, oh man, like none of this is really me. None of this is really what I'm about. And I'm consciously laying those things down, even though they have served me in a very specific way and made me feel accomplished in a very specific way. I'm laying them down, and I'm heading in a new direction, which is very scary, but it's like a buffalo. You gotta put your head down and head right into the wind. It's the only way you're gonna make it fast.
Absolutely. I've been saying for like over a year, I'm like, it's all an illusion. Everything in front of you is an illusion, and it's set up that way on purpose. And people are just adding to that, especially with like social media. But it's been going on forever, where people just give an illusion. So just to put it as simple as, people make their lives look like it's perfect. It's falling apart on the inside, but on the outside,
I'm guilty of that.
And that's what happens is, oh well, they're perfect, so I need to be perfect. And it's this trickle effect. And it's, having kids who are like, hey, do you see what I see? Oh, no, we don't talk about that. No, don't ever tell people, because that's unacceptable, or you're going to be labeled. And so it's like we've been conditioned to kind of just put on this facade of what is acceptable, and what people... it's like, what is aesthetically pleasing for people to have to see, and it's just all bullshit. And it is. And so we've said it on our show before, like, people just be who you are. Who cares if you're a hot mess? Be the hot mess you are. Like, and we talked about, like, we don't really even edit anymore, because we want people to see us warts and all. Like, we're not perfect. And that's what people need to start realizing. Like, nobody's perfect. It's all an illusion. It's all bullshit. And the sooner people start accepting that, the easier it's going to be. But some people just can't let go.
It's heavy to live with expectations of everyone else your entire life. Like, we carry around an extraordinary burden that we didn't ask for, and that we don't even want.
Yeah.
I went to university. I went to 4-year college. I didn't learn shit. I didn't learn anything. I learned maybe how to go to class with a hangover, get up and still make it to my 7:30 lab that I inexplicably signed up for. And I learned how to kind of exist within, be accepted within a certain range, but not like make any waves or. But I feel like all the but I suffered an incredible debt for that privilege of not much to show for it. And I think a lot of us we show, but it's like I had to go to college because that was just part of my story. That I never once questioned, am I going to go or not? I just immediately knew that I was going to take on an extraordinary student loan. And then work, that's just the way it was going to go, because I was going to go to college, and I did never think twice about it. And I was never really given the opportunity to think about, what I would like to do. But I don't think kids are really allowed to think like that anyway. I don't think kids could make those great decisions at that age, because we don't empower children to do anything. Mm-hmm. We brainwash them for their entire lives, and we rob them of their childhood. We rob them of their kid magic and their kid spirit, and all the best ideas come in childhood, because we are not encumbered by this adult bullshittery, and we have like the best ideas. Some of my I think my most profound me-isms that I feel like stick with me to this day are things that I discovered as a kid. Mm-hmm. And then adulthood's just, we don't ever want to do that. We don't want to ever celebrate that inner child again. But I think curiosity is something if you're an adult and you retain a spark of curiosity, that's like hugging your inner child. That's like celebrating your inner child. And I think that is a really wonderful way to approach life, is just with an innate curiosity. Mm-hmm. Doesn't mean you have to be a disbeliever or a negative person or like a naysayer or anything like that. Just a curiosity about like, I wonder, that's interesting. I wonder what else, like, that connects to that, or that, like always trying to connect things to a greater meaning. Instead of just like accepting everything as base. You
said before, it's like, I'm curious. And
curious.
That is something like our 6-year-old. He will question everything. And we've kind of brought him up like, do question everything. Question us. Like, don't talk back to us and be rude about it. But question. Right. If you don't get something, question it. Ask.
Right.
And so we ask things all the time.
We learn.
And he's like, I'm just curious. And I
love that. I say that all the time.
It's the cutest thing in the world. It's like, I'm just curious. And I'm like, I'm going to start saying that. I'm just curious.
I love that expression. It's so it's so honest, and and I think that I knock on a lot of locked doors, or I jiggle the locks of a lot of locked doors. Idea-wise, I question a lot of things that probably shouldn't. When I'm looking around, like I know the reason I have an alias of human vibration is because I know that I'm barking up some trees that haven't been barked up in a really long time, or have never been barked up, or I'm looking in places that I probably shouldn't be looking sometimes.
And do you get nervous with that? Because like, I was surprised that, one, you'd be on our show, and two, that, like, you're doing a video with us, because I'm thinking, like, this person needs to stay safe, like, what they're talking about, because it's
I'm not
weird.
Scared of anything.
That's awesome.
I used to be really guided by fear. My first year of human vibration was like, I've got to be the most anonymous person on the planet, and I have to be so secretive. And then I realized I cannot say, don't fear anything. The boogeymen don't exist. The powers that be aren't powerful. I cannot say that and be scared and be hiding behind. I still like the endeavor of having like human vibration. I like the feeling of, because I do have another voice inside of me. I do, like I'm exploring. This is another voice that I'm exploring. And I'm exploring this really curious side that doesn't get expressed in my real quote unquote real life, my day-to-day life. This is a different expression of myself, and I like that it has a different name to it, because it kind of allows me to explore it a little bit more freely, a little bit like a dissociation with it. I don't feel embarrassed about like, oh, does that sound good? Or I just write it out. Like I don't feel beholden, because like people are gonna think that they're gonna make us like, no, if I can hide behind human vibration, then I feel free by it. But I no longer feel like a fear of, I have to be totally anonymous, because if anybody knows anything about me, then I'm gonna be snatched up or something.
Yeah.
I don't fear that anymore. I've actually never received any sort of negativity of all the crazy things I talk about. I don't even have one example where someone has come at me in a negative way, made me feel unsafe in any way. It's been pretty incredible, the amount of dialogue that I've allowed. People can message me, and people do, and people ask me questions all the time. but out of all of it, like there's no hate. It's all positivity. It's all curiosity. Awesome. It's very cool.
It's awesome because I look at it, and I don't want to speak for you, but I look at it like here's this person putting themselves out there, putting these different thoughts out there. Mm-hmm. And when you put yourself out there, you open yourself up. But the stuff you put is so interesting, and it really makes you think. And I love that stuff. I know Alex loves that stuff. Like, okay, get us thinking. And
I like it too.
Yeah, and it's just like, so I think like, oh, okay, I always try to be respectful of people because I feel like we all have our own path, and if somebody's not quite somewhere yet, I need to be respectful of that. But hearing you say that, like, no, and I can't be afraid, I was like, I love that because I think fear is a prison of the mind. It's just,
100%.
yeah, and so it's just like I'm just listening to you like, fuck yeah, she gets it.
Yeah. Tell some truth.
Oh, I love it. I just get so excited. I do have to ask you.
Yeah.
You mentioned the magenta dress with JonBenet and the color scheme that you talk about. Can you talk a little bit about that for our listeners so they can understand it?
Okay, so magenta color, it's pink. It's that highly vibrant shade of pink, hot pink. It's the same color that Jackie O, her outfit, her famous dress suit. The assassination suit. It was magenta. So magenta is an interesting color because it lies at the very center of this phenomenon, this color theory application called the line of purples. And let me back up by just explaining purple. So purple is it's a color we all know. It's a pretty color. It's a ubiquitous color. We see it everywhere. But purple is interesting because it's not actually on the visible light spectrum. Purple does not exist. It's red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. And violet is not purple. Violet is actually a shade of deep blue, like an ocean, like a deep ocean blue is violet. Roses are red, violets are blue. So we know violets are blue. So where does purple come from? Well, purple doesn't exist in just the flat visible light spectrum. The visible light spectrum actually has to go into another dimension from 2D into 3D space in order to create the illusion of purple. So when the 2D spectrum goes into 3D space, it creates another dimension, and it wraps around itself to where the polar opposite ends of red and violet, so red and blue, they wrap around and they meet. And they're not supposed to meet, but they meet. And in that boundary where they're coming together, almost like a magnet going like, and like you want to stick them together, but they don't quite stick together. Well, that's exactly what's happening with the opposite ends of the red and blue spectrum. So they're meeting together, but they're not quite meeting. They create this energy field in the middle called the line of purples. And it's the mixing of red and blue, and we know red and blue creates purple, but it's a whole spectrum of shades. It goes from a really like highly reddish purpley color to, in the middle, this pure pink magenta. That's at the very, very center of the line of purples. And then you go again towards the blue, and then you get like a kind of like a purpley bluish color. But it's a whole host, a whole range of shades, all purples, all along with what's called the line of purples. And purples they don't exist in the visible light spectrum. They only exist in this field, this straight line across the color light diagram, the 3D, the measurement of light in color space. And it creates a barrier. It really creates this fence, this straight line, this fence in color space called the line of purples. And so purple is what's happening when the purples mix in this field called the line of purples. What's happening in our brain is trying to make sense of this magnetic energy, of this frenetic energy that's happening with these opposing colors that aren't supposed to meet. They're not supposed to be together. Our brain's like, what's going on? And so our brain, and we've kind of talked about what our brain does with faces. Our brain does all sorts of things without our knowledge. Our brain does all sorts of things that are optical illusion-y that we don't even know what's going on, but our brain does these things for us. Mm-hmm. And so when our brain is trying to comprehend the wrapping of the spectrum, it experiences this range of purples. And the purple does not actually exist in reality. It exists only, we're not taking it in with our eyes. It's not a true color. We are experiencing the color in our brains, in our mind, and it's a pure expression of our mind. And that is why people with color blindness, a lot of them struggle. A lot of the color blindness affects specifically shades. For some people, there's different types, but a very specific type or a common type of color blindness is the inability to see shades along the line of purples, pinks. Like they just can't see it. Their brain's just like, nope, sorry, we're not doing that. Like we're not doing that. We're not participating in that illusion. Sorry, we're checked out. And so I think that's kind of interesting that like some people's brains just straight up don't allow for this to take place. And so purple is, once you understand that in order for us to experience the shade of purple, as common as it seems. And if you watched the inauguration today, you probably saw purple everywhere. Everyone seemed to be wearing a purple outfit. It was kind of overkill how much purple we saw on screen today.
I didn't watch it, but I saw some still photos afterwards.
Yeah. And I was like, purple. Okay, this is really the color of the year.
Yeah.
So, if you understand that when we see purple, it means that a process is happening in our brain is an illusion. Like we're having an illusion. And so the color purple itself, it comes to represent illusion. So when we see purple, it's telling us that an illusion is afoot, an illusion is in front of us, an illusion is taking place, and that's sometimes when we see this in imagery. Even if the story itself is completely conflicting, is telling us one thing, the photo, if the photo is saturated in purples, it's an indication that the information that we're receiving is not genuine, but the visual cues we're receiving have the greater truth. They always say a picture is worth 1,000 words. So if you see a short headline that's scary about some horrific thing that's happening or just happened or going to happen, and the picture is all purple and pink, well, it's an indication that the headline is actually telling you, is misdirecting you, and the truth is lying in the photo, which is saying like, don't believe this headline. None of this is real. Like it's just not real. This is all an illusion. So worry not. And that is actually the most interesting part of this whole experience for me is people reaching out. Once they see the purples, like first they'll be like, what's going on with purple? And I'll be like, well, here's what to look out for. And they'll be like, I don't believe you. And then they'll be like, what'd you do? You turned on purple. Why is the world purple? Everything's purple. But what I think is really interesting is once there's an awareness, once there's like the base point of awareness, and then you start to see it, and then you kind of start to apply maybe just some like general rules of like what it could mean. I think I've noticed that a lot of people reach out to me and they're like, I'm not scared anymore. I'm not scared by these. Like I watched the news last night and I saw the story and they were talking about all these deaths, but it was all purple, and I was just like, next, like unfazed, a feeling of being unfazed. And I liken that to a superpower. Like you're now immune essentially from this sublayer of deception that could exist just right all around us, through the media, through our inputs, through our, our channels that we're receiving our information from. I think it's a really cool thing to keep an eye out for. I do have people that keep me honest and say like, you're just focusing on the purples too much, and you're part of the problem now. Like you're feeding the beast of the purples. And,
so yeah, I'll admit, maybe when I first heard about you were talking about the purples. I was like, oh no, well, my two favorite colors are purple and green. And I especially love them together. And then, then like, I'm understanding it, like I was like trying to read more about it and understand it more. I was like, I want to bring that up because people who are learning about this might say, but I love purple or I love pink. Yeah. And then just today you talked about, I know, and then today you talked about green being opposing to purple. Yeah. And I'm like, how funny is that? Like my two favorite colors.
I'm gobbling up all the good colors. I know. Well, it's interesting. I'm glad you brought up green because it is true. For every shade of along the line of purples, there is a corresponding shade, an opposing but corresponding shade of green. So from really blue purple to red purple, there's an opposing color on the other side, from like yellow green to blue green. And they have, and they meet in the middle with magenta and then hyper green, like lime green. Those two are this like sister colors. And it's interesting because magenta is the height of the illusion, and then the lime green is the color of green screen technology. So it's almost like here's the illusion, and then here's how we pull it off.
Yeah.
Like they're on the same. I find that very fascinating. That it's not just any green. It's green screen green that matches with magenta, which is the center, the nexus point, the purest point of the illusion. And magenta, the word magenta, magic enter. It's like, come on, And Jackie's outfit was magenta that day, and she wasn't even just wearing magenta. So the line of purples is interesting because it's violet, magenta, and red. And you either see purple in an image, and it's just represented as like purple, you see purples, or you see these colors in a flash. You see like a spot of violet, like blue, and you see like a pink thing here, and then a red thing here, and that is also a tell that they're working together. Mm-hmm. And so that day, so these three colors together too also work as purple. And so that day, Jackie was wearing her pink suit. She was carrying red roses, which she wasn't supposed to. She was supposed to carry yellow roses because that's the color, that's the rose of Texas, the flower of Texas. Right. So she was supposed to be handed yellow roses. She wasn't. She was handed red roses. Pink magenta jacket, red roses, and she was carrying inexplicably a blue handbag, a violet handbag, which did not go with her outfit because her suit was black and pink. Mm-hmm. And you don't carry blue. You don't carry navy. You don't wear navy shoes if you're wearing black. And so her blue handbag stuck out with her red roses, with her magenta outfit. She was a physical manifestation of the major points of the line of purples, from red to magenta to blue to violet. And so it's interesting when you see that, and like that whole day was just a magic spell. That whole day was a spell.
I completely agree with you on that one. Now,
I just want to interject here because you said it's a spell. And again, like a year ago, I told Alex, I said, I feel like there is a spell happening. Like once I started waking up more, I said, I feel a spell. It's like this huge spell being put on everyone. And it's like they're putting a curtain in front of us and they're showing us what they want to see. And so I actually did a counter spell, and I put it back on them.
Interesting. Tell me about that.
So basically, I got different herbs. It's like this whole process, and so I go through this process, and I basically take the energy that is being put on myself and my family, and I reflect it back like a mirror, and I shine it back on them so they cannot affect us. And that is when I really started like seeing more and being more awake to things. And it was like, I was like, there is a spell. I can feel it. It's like I can see it. And I was like, so I did a reversal. And I put it back on them.
You're a seer. You're a seer.
Yeah, I hate labels. But like people are like,
oh, layer, but I'm just
no. I'm saying because people are like, oh, you're psychic, and I'm just like, I don't like labels. I'm an empath. I guess I'm clairvoyant, clairaudient, clairsentient, claircognizant. But it's just like I'm just me. But it's just like I was like, there is a spell, and the fact that you said that, it's just like, yep.
It feels like that to me, and it feels like the spell is breaking with awareness. The moment enough wake up, and I think we are. I think many people at this time, we're thinking thoughts, we're asking questions that I don't think our parents were capable of.
Yeah.
I don't think our grandparents were capable of. We are privy to the amount of information that we are. We can see the patterns through the long arm of history, actually the short arm of history. I think history is kind of all fake.
I'm with you on that, 100%.
We could spiral on that. We could spiral on that. Oh, jeez.
We could talk forever.
For many hours.
Yeah.
But I think, long story short, I think that we are able to see that now in a way that we've never been able to see before. And so we can kind of see the illusion happening below us, around us. You can feel the spell. And I see people asking questions like I'm aware because of how I'm positioned and the kind of information that I'm putting out. When I started talking about the things that I'm talking about, it was crickets. It was I got a little bit, the JonBenet got some stuff, but I went from like 5 people to 500 people, and then I went from 500 people to maybe 1,000 people, but it was still a very, very small audience of who I was able to reach, and very few people got it. Very few people, but now I have like so many people that are like, because of everything we've seen this year and how kooky this 2020 year was, how just, I think that it just allowed us to go, wait a second, like, this isn't right. Like, things aren't adding up. Things just don't make sense. There's all these things happening that are on TV, but I'm not seeing them. And I'm not really seeing it play out in my real life, but like the world's seemingly on fire, but my world's fine. I don't really know how to, to assess that. This fracturing of our understanding, I think, has allowed us to be in a position to ask all these questions for the first time ever. And we're like, wait a second. I think that if we just reach even a small, like, the idea of a tipping point, you don't need a majority to reach a powerful tipping point. Yeah. You can make an entire global change, a global tip with like 10% of awareness. 10% of people can make a change for the rest of the 90. Or even I've read really amazing things in the same concept, but that 1% of consciousness. 1% of consciousness can change the remaining 99, can shift the remaining 99. And I think that is kind of why, I remember back in the day with like the Wall Street thing, how like the 1%, how they kept telling us like how the 1%, like the elite of the elite of the elite. I think that they were kind of like driving our attention away from how powerful the idea of 1% of us, like not elites, not them, not the untouchables, not the Elon Musk and Bill Gates of the world, these characters of fascination, but us, like 1% of human consciousness. I think is beyond, can move mountains. I truly believe, and I think we're getting there. I think we're like getting online together in a way.
Yeah.
Whether we realize it or not, I think we're getting online together.
I sure hope so.
Yeah, because I did a tarot reading for 2021, and basically, like, what you're saying is going along with the stuff I was getting. Basically, like, right now, people are asleep, they're not seeing things for what it is, but they're going to start to wake up. And with that, the balance is going to shift.
Wow, I see it. I see it as a tilted chessboard.
The balance is going to shift, but then we need to work on our inner balance. And there's going to be a lot of struggle because people who are evolving and seeing, there are going to be people around them who can't, and you have to let go. And you just kind of,
that's the tough part.
Yeah, and it's going to be difficult. It's going to be difficult, but just with everything you're saying, I'm like, oh my God, this is what I've been saying. You're saying what I've predicted. And it's just like,
we're tapped into the source. We're tapped into some source.
Yeah.
I don't even think this is my. I don't even feel like this is my. I feel like I'm absorbing.
It's
this.
About the collective. It's about becoming one with the collective, where you're tapped into it, and everyone's going to get there at a different level. But that's where you have to find balance, because you can't tap in and help balance the collective if you're unbalanced. And that's kind of the end game.
It did take me, I would say, the last 5 years of my life, 7 years. The last stretch of my life has been a dynamic shift. I started a yoga practice about 6 years ago. That was a huge change in my life. I cut out sugar. That was a gigantic change in my life. I started just to see those two changes kind of like allowed me to take my mind away from some really horrific, like, kind of addictive behaviors. Like, I was addicted to sugar. I didn't even know, but I was since I was a kid. I just had no idea. And it allowed me to, I started meditating. My brain was allowed to, I had more space for stuff in my brain because I wasn't always thinking about things that were going on in the background. And have like a lot of these background facilities, this random access memory in my brain going towards like, when's my next little sugar fix or whatever. Like, It's weird. It's weird how that was working. I didn't even realize. I had no idea. And so I feel like unwrapping myself from certain things. Like I don't think I would be here either if I hadn't made those cognitive, those choices 5 years ago. It was a journey. It was a journey of untethering myself from, processed food and garbage in, garbage out.
Yeah.
So it's not just the food that we put into our bodies. It's the information that we put into our minds. If we are only taking in, if we have poor eating habits, we're going to manifest that physically, and we're going to have we're going to feel sluggish, we're not going to feel our best, we're not going to look our best, all those things. Same thing with the information that we're feeding into our brains. If it's garbage information, which is kind of like the public educational system, unfortunately, public education does not yield an educated public. Unfortunately,
it's a fact.
I feel like we're also like the way we are even able to think is garbage. Like we don't know what we don't know.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know. We're not making connections that we just don't realize are right in front of us.
Yes.
We're asleep at the wheel, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
And that was me as well for, I would say, the first 30 years of my life. I'm 35, about to be 36. I shouldn't say that on podcast. And I'm going to go through
I'm 40. It's okay.
I wouldn't go back. I love every second of it. I would never go back 1 second. But it's interesting because I would never want to do my 20s again. I would never want to be that person again. I was so asleep. I had no idea what was going on. I didn't even know what that person thought. I don't even know her. I don't even know what she was up to. She wasn't thinking. I had no idea what my thoughts were back then. It took all this time. Like now I have real thoughts, I think, that come from within. I don't just have opinions on other people's thoughts. I feel like I have unique points of view, which took me a long time to get here, but I think that's what we're all kind of discovering. It's like our own internal, our voice, our own light, shining our own light in the brighter, and like the more you have your internal, like my light feels like it's shining really bright right now with human vibration. It's like allowed me to I feel like I'm like, all I am is kind of like this torchlight, and people kind of find me, they're like,
it's awesome.
Sure.
Yeah, I love it. I think it's cool. I'm glad that I live in this space and time. I never really felt like I fit in, but I do feel like this is the perfect space and time for me to be here because of the technology and how I grew up as a no internet kid and then an internet kid and kind of learned it and did that whole thing and really learned technology and was fascinated with computers and all that stuff. Kind of led me to. It's a journey. We all have our own specific journey.
Sure.
Yes.
And we learn things along the way.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Now, I kind of interrupted because you were going to talk about JFK.
Oh, geez. Well, you brought up Jackie.
Oh, yes. What would you like to talk about with JFK?
I loved her face.
I love
Well, that was like my first conspiracy. And I've always been curious. And I come from, for 20 years of my life, I was a professional wrestler. So that right there, I was involved in essentially deceiving people, right? Because I'm playing a character. Yeah, exactly. Thank you. And seeing how that world works and everything that goes into that and putting on a show for people and making people suspend their disbelief, even before I got into that world, it always fascinated me, but I was always fascinated with JFK and that assassination. For whatever reason, something about it, and just the whole Lee Harvey Oswald thing, it never made sense to me. I saw Oliver Stone's movie.
The Magic Bullet.
Yeah, exactly. I saw that movie, and that just got the wheels turning. So ever since I was, 11 years old, I've been into conspiracies and just went down all those rabbit holes.
Yeah.
Now, with the JFK thing, recently I started thinking, what if the whole thing was just bullshit? It was all made up. Like, why? There's a million different theories. I can show you a stack of books in my basement all about it. Just different people with different theories and everything. And I just started thinking, what if he never existed? What if this was all bullshit? Like, all of history is bullshit. Like, I've been thinking that a lot lately. Like, we teach our kids this too. Look, you can see what's in the book. You can learn it. It's okay. But question it, because were you there? Was I there? I wasn't there. I didn't witness it. I just know what somebody told me or wrote in a book. It's just one person's story.
I love it. Yeah.
So the JFK thing, once I started going, I bet you the guy didn't even exist. Or, the whole thing was just made up. Like, I don't know. I wasn't there. Yeah. And then after I started having these thoughts, all of a sudden I'm seeing online, I don't know if it was on your feed, something I saw online, and it was a picture of the Kennedy family, and he's on the perimeter, and he just looked fake to me.
Like a ghost.
Yeah,
he looks like a ghost. He looks like he's sticking out. I think that was one of mine.
Was that one of yours?
That image before. I have posted that image, the family photo where JFK literally looks separate. He looks like he was photoshopped in.
Yeah.
And that's not the only example of that. If you really start diving into the photography element of the JFK family, JFK, the future president, is always on the periphery. He's always like, just kind of like etched in, like he's always kind of like on the edge or on the outskirts, or kind of like between two people, like but behind them, and he just like his head's poking over.
Right. Yeah.
It's kind of It's interesting how if you really look at the family photos, how he appears to be inserted in, and I think that is a hallmark. You talk about these people not existing. Well, before we just totally rule out JFK not existing. One of the things that I like to do when I'm looking at these people, or whether that they're authentic or not, is their early life and what that looks like. And the hallmark of these people's early life is that the photos just don't really exist. The photos, if they do exist, they look digitally altered in some way. There seems to be some sort of gaping hole in the explanation of their early life. Like a lot of celebrities, I've noticed one celebrity in particular, I'm kind of fascinated with Tom Hanks. I think that he's just a character. I don't think that he really exists. And his entire early life is explained away in these really complicated things about his family always moving and being really poor. And he's kept to himself, and he never made any friends, and he went to college, but he never saw anybody because he spent all of his time in the dark movie theater. And it's just like, all of these things are positioned to make it seem like he was this mysterious guy with an artist, but really what it's doing is pre-explaining why nobody has any record of this person ever existing, why he has no friends going oh, hey, I went to school with so-and-so. That very similar thing to the JonBenet case. That's something that I really began to notice, and a hallmark of the JonBenet case is the world around her really didn't exist. There was no friends available or around going, I went to school with JonBenet. Nobody's there. It was, you'd think in the time of instant celebrity, there would be people coming out of the woodwork to go, I was in a pageant with JonBenet, and her dad was a creep, and her brother was a creep, and her mom was a creep. And, you
never saw any of that.
National Enquirer.
Yeah.
Exactly. And you just don't make sense. It's all these weird, it's just all these weird child molesters that they find, but it's it's gonna be this guy that did the thing, and then it just turned. Remember that that ridiculous John Mark Carr guy with the JonBenet Ramsey, who was that really weird looking alien. He looked like an alien.
Yeah, that weird. Yes, yeah, I know what we're talking about.
Weird twist. They just roll out.
Yeah.
Silly. They just roll out ridiculous stuff every once in a while.
I swear it's just to make fun of people. It's just kind of to throw it in your face, what are they gonna buy now?
It's kind of a fuck you.
That's what it feels like.
Yeah.
But back to the JFK. Okay, so JFK. What I find so interesting about the assassination itself is the improbability of it, first and foremost. The improbability of the magic bullet going through his head, hitting other people, coming back around, doing the whole thing. The Zapruder film is really interesting because it's obviously been manipulated.
Yeah.
So I really used to be fascinated about that. But to your point, when I have come, all of this stuff is so wild and so wacky, but what I have come to understand is that none of it is real. None of it is, and nobody was in Dealey. The parade route around that time, going through that section of Dallas, was going down that very specific, in front of the book depository where he got shot, on Dealey Plaza, grassy knoll. That was a quartered off portion of the parade route. Nobody was there. Nobody was on that portion. Nobody was actually there. It was completely sectioned off, just like sometimes these Antifa zones that are that we can't see, that they're blockaded. Even wanting to go as a general public, you can't go see where these zones are. You can't see what's going on. But we're shown something that's happening in that zone, and usually it's something pretty fiery or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
So if you think about the grassy knoll in that sense, and you actually watch the Zapruder film, one thing that you notice is the people in the background of the Zapruder film do not react to the gunshot. They don't duck for cover. They don't like dive onto their loved one. They're watching as if a picnic, if they're having a picnic and a parade is taking place in front of them. Not one person in his Zapruder film footage at the time of the gunshot, which would have actually sounded prior to the head exploding, which looks like a pumpkin head exploding, by the way. It looks like a complete fabric. It doesn't look like a real human being.
Yeah.
So people would have been doing like these types of motions. People would have been moving. People would have been darting. People would have been ducking for the person, their loved one next to them. You would have seen that reaction from the crowd.
Turning their head maybe, like, what was that?
Something.
Yeah.
The president's been shot. But everyone's just kind of like frozen in space. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. This is what you see. This is what you see. Like people just kind of like standing there. There's no reaction from the crowd. And I've been down a lot of those rabbit holes. From the Zapruder film, I had concluded not too long ago, like 2 years ago, before I woke up, I thought that Jackie did it. I thought that she pulled the bullet underneath his thing, because it kind of looks like that. She like bends over, she wraps her arms around him before the explosion, before his head explodes. She wraps her arms around him, and then his head explodes. It kind of looks like she pulls the fire shot from underneath his thing. I was like, that's what it,
Yeah.
So I've dissected it from a million different ways, but I have finally I've landed on a vantage point, I feel like, where you, Alex, are at, where it's almost as if all of these stories, all of these plot lines that have been laid out for us are simply bear traps for us to get caught into. And we need to be above it. We need to be climbing, swinging from the trees above the bear traps on the ground. We need to be above all of this. And in order to do that, you have to see it from a different way. You have to see it from a totally different perspective. And my perspective is JFK didn't get shot that day because JFK was actually a real person.
This person does not exist.
A false idol in your head. It sounds so weird to say because he was the president of the fucking United States. Like, what the hell? Like, but if you follow me on Twitter, like, this is not, I say this all the time, I question politics. I believe every politician operating on the federal level globally is a puppet. I don't trust any politician operating on the public global stage on that level. State and local politicians, your city councilmen, they exist. I'm not questioning city councilman number 9, you know?
Yeah.
However, he does look like a robot. No. But it's the federal politics that I don't believe in. I don't believe in the politics, the government, because countries themselves don't really exist. These territories, these terrains, these none of that really exists. It's all just like these constructs. And so I think it's like house of cards built on sand. And it appears very powerful, and it appears very all-encompassing, and it appears very shady. You know, like, I think all conspiracies really share one thing, and that's to prove the government is big and powerful and mighty and scary. You know, like, all these conspiracies just point to a powerful government, which is why I think the conspiracy theories themselves are their own psyop, because ultimately I believe that the powers that be, quote unquote, are not.
I call them the powers that wanna be. I don't give them that. I don't give them that. I call them the powers that wanna be, because I'm not going to give them that power. They want it, and we have it. Like.
And we have it.
So we manifest. Human beings manifest. And I think what they try to do is control our manifestation so they can have that power and that control. They do. Exactly. They're the powers that want to be. You can use that.
I love it. I will. I love it. It's exactly right. It speaks so truly to what it is. They don't have it.
Don't give them that. Don't give it to them.
And the only, it's by hook or by crook. And I believe that they can't harm us. I believe that the power is that they cannot harm us. They can only deceive us into believing that we have been harmed. And then they can only manipulate us into harming ourselves or others. Because they can do that. They can manipulate us into making some pretty self-detrimental decisions that will harm us, will harm our fellow man, will harm things, space and time around us. But I think a lot of the things that are presented as our biggest threats, like nuclear proliferation, nuclear war, I don't think that's a no-go. I think that's a no-go.
I'm with you on that too.
It's just a fairy tale. I think that is just a bedtime story that we are told so that we will stay asleep.
Yeah.
And they're going to do what they can to tuck us in, comfy,
Tuck us
cozy.
in tight, Mr. Sandman, come in, sprinkling those, Yeah, exactly. We are asleep. We are sleep walking.
Yeah.
We're sleepwalking
Mm-hmm.
through it.
I think what's difficult is there are people who just don't want to wake up.
Yeah.
And
I wonder if, this kind of goes into the conversation about like the idea of simulation theory, non-player characters, all these things. I do kind of wonder, and this is really the first year of my life that I've encountered other awake people. I'm so thankful to be connecting with you for so many reasons. Truly.
it goes both ways.
Absolutely.
These are conversations that I was not capable of having prior to starting a Twitter. That's why I started Twitter, is because I was desperate to have these types of conversations. And now I'm having these with lots of fun people and with you guys, and beautiful, beautiful people. You guys are amazing. Your thoughts, you're expanding my mind as we're talking about this. But it's just so interesting how I feel like we're kind of arriving at these, we're all coming together. We're kind of getting there in our own ways, in our own vehicles.
Yeah.
And ideas are vehicles, like a train of thought. You grasp an idea, almost like a rope out of here. I feel, and in climate, like the idea of a ladder, like the ladder of knowledge. I feel like ideas can be transportative, can transport us into new realms, into new ideas. And it's interesting that we're all kind of arriving at this space, this newfound understanding, but we're all kind of getting there through our own path, our own journey, our own modes of transportation, our own thoughts, our own ideas. I love it. I love that we have crossed paths at this particular time, because it had to be this time. It couldn't have been before.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It works out. For me, like what you just said, it resonates so much because I personally kind of went through like, oh, okay, I am me, but I'm going to build my wall and protect myself because I can't be me. And I've brought that wall back down and trying to reach out to people I've never fit in. And, we've talked about on the show, I've just never really had a lot of friends. I just never fit in. And the harder I tried to fit in, it was like the worst. It got worse, yes.
Easier.
Yeah. And the more I just say, fuck it, and let me be myself, the more I start connecting with other people. And it's not your fault. It's not our fault. We're told not to be ourselves. We're basically told to not shine our light. Yeah. We're told to not be ourselves. We're told to fake it till we make it. Like that's supposed to be a good thing. As an adult, and again, this was a previous episode we talked about. I would talk about like I would go to work and I'm always happy, and I find the bright side to everything. And it's like Happy Monday, and people are like, I just can't deal with you right now. Like I'm the asshole. And I used to get so hurt by that, thinking, what's wrong with me? That I'm just trying to be a good person and happy. And then it's like you realize it's like because we're on different vibrations. And they're on a different path than me, and we're just not connecting, and that's okay. Mm-hmm. And so it's like finally this year I was like, when something like that happened, I was like, I just don't care. Like I truly don't care. You do you be you. And it feels great. That storm cloud. Yeah. But the more I get like that, the more it's like that connection with the right people start happening. Mm-hmm. So like hey, we're on the same frequency with things. And it's just you have to be true to yourself. You can't worry what other people think of you, and you have to do what feels right and go with your thing. And that is when like your light, your light lights the path for you, and you find others. Yeah, I agree with that so much. You don't even understand how much I resonate with that. And I believe that our journey in life is to find that point where the person that we are born to be and the person that we are living as meet. And
I finally found that point in my life just recently, and I have been living in that point, and it has been the most beautiful expression of my life to this day. Is like finding that, and it feels just like to you too. I had a really hard time connecting with people. I always felt like I was not quite, my energy was not quite met by the people around me, but I was very self-conscious about that, and so like I wasn't even having like a pure energy experience for myself, because I was always like, it was negative, like my energy, even though like I have a joyous thing about me, I'm a joyful person, I also was carrying around a lot of internal just like negativity, because I was so self-conscious about the whole thing, and so I couldn't even be me, I couldn't even be like real, and it took this exploration through human vibration. It took like me like finding my voice, and then I was able to kind of take a little bit of that confidence that I was finding through conversations that I'm having on through Twitter. I was able to take a little bit more of that each day into my quote unquote real life, which I'm realizing like my real self is more human vibration than it is like this person I will quote unquote live for 30 plus years. I am actually more this avatar that I've created for 5 years, and I am, a 30, my meat suit for 30 plus years. So it's interesting how we find ourselves, how we allow ourselves to be found. And I'm finally, I love that you said the not fitting in. I felt that for a long time, but it wasn't, it's in the vibration, our vibration truly does, our vibe attracts our tribe. It sounds so silly and so simple, but it is so
like
true.
That. Yeah.
We are finding, and it goes both ways. When we're living down, when we're living a lower vibration state, you're gonna find people. You're gonna find people that are on that downward spiral with you, and you're just gonna hold hands and go down faster.
Sure.
But when you're going out the other way is also true. When you are living in your high vibration state, you're going to attract and you're going to act as a magnet for people that are on that similar positive energy state, positive vibration, and it becomes like a swirling, almost like an ascension of self with others. Like you and others can go from one understanding of this experience, and just through sharing, just through community, just through having conversations like we are having right now, I feel ascended. I feel in a different state right now than I did before our conversation, because I feel like I've learned a little bit from you. I feel like we all have puzzle pieces. Like you guys have a piece of the puzzle, and we just connected our little pieces of the puzzle, and now I have a bigger, clearer picture of the whole puzzle because we were able to connect. And I think that is just,
that's awesome.
And it's magic. I'm so thankful.
Again, you just said something I have said before. Puzzle pieces. I've tried to explain to people that we are a puzzle. And what happens is, as we're growing up, the puzzle gets broken up and it gets smushed back together. So it's together, but it's not fitting right. And it's up to us to put those pieces back in the right spots. And here you go, talking about the puzzle pieces and connecting it, because it's that.
I'm getting it from you guys. Like we're sharing. Synchronicities are crazy in my life right now. Like
here.
We don't believe it exists. But it's not until I started speaking the language of the universe, which has been just in this past, been riding this wavelength, and I've been kind of on this discovery path, of discovery, and like along the way, the synchronicities with the people that I've connected with are so significant. Like almost like we're reading each other's minds. Like we're seeing, we're experiencing the same reality in a different space and time. We're in a different space and time, but we're sharing this moment. And I'm picking up all these. I'm picking up all these things that you're like, you're laying down without physically saying them out loud. Like I'm picking up a lot of your vibrations. I feel like we're kindred spirits. And obviously,
awesome.
This conversation is showing that we have a lot of the same types of ways of thinking and kind of like paths and neuro pathways. We're very like pew, pew, pew. But I think it's cool that a lot of the things that I've said, you look over at Alex and you're like, I was thinking. I can tell it. I can tell that you're like, I was thinking that, and it makes me feel like we really are sharing. This shared consciousness is so obvious. It's so like, forget cell phones, forget the internet. Like we are the intranet. Like we are the interconnected understanding. We are the collective conscious. We are the true internet. We are the true World Wide Web. We are the true I mean, it is powerful. And once you're able to tap into that, which is just right here, it's not far away. It's not, but we're just slightly like a radio dial that is just slightly off, you know?
Mm.
But once we're able to tune into each other, to tune in, to be in tune with each other, to vibe in tune, to have similar vibrations. Yeah, it's very
like
cool.
You have to unplug from the physical, the 3D, unplug from the social media, unplug from the news and the TV, unplug from that and plug into your higher self.
Yeah, into yourself, And one of my ways to do that was yoga. I mean, I used to go, if I really think about just that example, I used to in my previous life, I would maybe go to the gym and like plug my earphones into, do like an elliptical machine or something, and plug my earphones in and watch a TV show while I was doing like some sort of like a treadmill or whatever, and that would be my workout. And at no point was I like checking in with myself, with my breathing, with my higher self, with my inner being. It was meaningless. It was just like, let me get in there, let me work out, and let me get out and go back, do whatever I need to do. Very kind of like, just there was no higher purpose to it. And now I've traded all that. I haven't been to a gym in, 6 years, and now I just do yoga. And the yoga, the workout, like the benefit, the benefit on the side is having a good workout. But like the real practice is checking in with yourself, with who you are, where you are, how you are, what you are, when you are. Like the present moment in the present breath we're taking in is really all that exists. And it's everything that's ever happened, everything that ever will happen, everything is happening right now in this present moment. And we can either embrace it and really be present with it, or we can forget about it and ignore it and plug into our show and forget that it's happening at all. Yeah. And the more I started to really plug in and honor my present moment, that put me on the path of awareness. I wouldn't be this person if I was still going to the gym, plugging into my shows on whatever, Bravo, or whatever.
Right, sure.
I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't have presented. My brain would not. So I'm thankful. I started yoga accidentally. Like, someone just came to my apartment complex and was like, "Here, let me show you yoga, and then give you a free thing to this yoga studio down the street." I was like, "Okay, sure." Cool. It was like an angel. An angel said, "You need yoga in your life." And I don't want to turn this into like a yoga podcast, but
it's fine.
It is.
It's all good.
It kind of goes with the spirituality. It's our bodies are special. Like, what we do, how we are oscillating. We're tuning forks for the world around us, and we hold stress in our body in really incredible ways that we don't realize. Physical stress in the body, by simply stretching, you can actually relieve emotional stress. You don't realize that, but like, there's certain stretches that you can do in yoga where you will kind of become overcome with emotion. You maybe will have a sensation that you want to cry, and it's like, what's happening? Well, it's literally stress leaving your body, emotional stress that is hiding in these points, in your shoulders, in your hips, and it's leaving the body, and it's like, it's crazy. We're energy beings. We hold on to these energies, and and our bodies are, we have a central nervous system. We're basically computers. We're these incredible machines that require incredible amounts of energy and focus incredible amounts of energy, and we just kind of give it away. We give it away every day. We don't even think about it. We get up in the morning and turn on our TVs and open up our little blue light, stash our little phones or black mirrors, and we just go we dive right in. Yeah. But we don't think about, like, I don't even think about it. I don't even do it. So once I talk about it, I don't, sometimes in the morning I just get up and look at my phone, and I don't think like, am I centered? How am I feeling today? I don't even do it. But I recognize that I have so much more. It's cool. Like, I'm not at the end of the road. I have so much more growth and discovery ahead of me, which is a cool thing. Yeah.
That is awesome.
It's a cool time to be alive. It's a cool time to be alive, I think.
Oh, I agree.
No way.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah. So you mentioned you get up in the morning and you look at your phone. So I have to ask, because it made me think, when I get up, the first thing I do is think about my dreams. And I was wondering, with how over the past year, especially with everything changed, has that affected your dreams at all?
it has affected my dreams. I wish I had a better relationship with my dreams. At the moment, I have this weird recurring dream where I'm stuck on this, like, I'm trying to get somewhere. I have this, like, every single night I'm having the same dream where I'm trying to get to a very specific point. I'm always missing I'm always, like, running to the airport, missing my flight. I'm always on the thing, but missing the thing, whether it's planes, trains, or automobiles. Doesn't matter what mode of transportation it is. I'm always, like, just missing the thing. And I'm always, like, or even if I finally either have the dreams where I finally get on the boat or get on the train or get in the car, but then, like, another calamity happens and I'm missing another. It's like, oh God, I can't, like, even once I get on this thing. And so it's weird that I don't, the recurring aspect of this, I don't know if it's something is a direct relation to this past year, which has just been kind of crazy. And I'm trying to work a lot of things out in my life, because recurring dreams aren't necessarily something that are a hallmark of me either. And so it's like, the one notable difference that I'm having in this past year is not, I would say, like, more vivid dreams, but it's just this damn recurring dream that I cannot seem to get rid of. Is this, like, this
you need to figure out what the dream is telling you.
I know. I'm trying to go somewhere. I'm trying to do something. I'm trying to get somewhere in my dream, but I don't know what the destination is. And I try it all different ways. I'm trying planes. I'm trying trains. I'm trying cars. I'm trying bicycles. But I'm not ever. It's interesting because, like, there's no more information really about it other than the struggle of trying to get there. You know, it's like I have no awareness of, like, even in my dream when I know, like, this is the same fucking dream, I'm not like, okay, well, what are you doing? Where are you going? Why are you trying? Why are you trying so hard? You know, it's interesting how little awareness I have. And I used to. I haven't done it in a long time, but I love the idea, or I love the capacity for lucid dreaming when you realize that you're dreaming in a dream. And I can do that, and I can get there. And it happens, once in a blue moon. It's not an everyday occurrence. I can't totally control it, but I do love the moment where you're like, I'm dreaming. And then I try to, like, stop people. I always try to, like, look around and go, okay, we're dreaming. Like, we're in a dream right now. You know, I'm always trying to, like, wake other people up. As soon as I realize that I'm in the dream, I'm, like, looking around, seeing who else I can wake up. And in doing that, I kind of wake up, like, you know, because I'm, like, trying to shout at everybody to wake up with me.
It's funny you say that, because when I lucid dream, I'm usually like, okay, I don't like this. We're stopping. Nope, this is what's going to happen.
Do you try to control it?
I do.
Do you ever be like, okay, well,
I do.
This is what I want to do in my dream. I wish I could get there, because I would love to do all sorts of adventures. If I could just, like, choose my own adventure in a dream once I realize I'm lucid dreaming, and then be like, okay, here I am in the Serengeti. I do. I would love to totally control it.
You're going to laugh. So one dream I had, because I dream about zombies a lot. And
zombies.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Like brains? Like
yes.
Zombies? But, I never had that zombie.
So, like, the house I grew up in, I was there and all these zombies were coming in, and I was starting to get scared, and I thought, no. And I was like, stop. This isn't how it's going to be. And all of a sudden, like, I was like, no, we're going to have fun with this. And then they were awesome, and we were hanging out and having fun. I was like, I started feeling scared, and I was just like, fuck no, this is my dream, and I'm not going to let this happen. And it was just the coolest thing.
That is the coolest thing.
And people were talk about, like, oh, I want to talk and ask, like, what are you doing here? What does this mean? And I'm just, like, getting my popcorn, and I'm just like, what do we have tonight?
And we can do that in our lives too.
Yeah.
We can do that in our lives. We can take it and go, all this stuff that I think is so scary and is presenting to me as scary. You know, we're kind of living a waking dream. If you just take in what you're told, you're dreaming. You're being fed a dream spell. You're under a spell. You're under a dream
it's
spell.
hypnotism.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I've got this weird recurring dream too, where
recurring dream.
I've got a very, and this one I've been having for, years, where I run, and it just wherever on the street, wherever I can run, and when I want to, just randomly, I can jump. And I can jump really high where I'm up above the tree lines, and I'm just like running in midair. And then I get so high, and it's weird. I can control it, but it's very weird. Like I feel like I'm trying to control being up in the air and getting myself to come back down. And when I come back down, I don't land on my feet. I land on all fours, and I'm kind of like running on my hands and my feet, almost like kind of like a bear or a tiger runs, kind of like that. Yeah. And then I can, if people are around, I will get back onto both feet and run, and then jump up again, and I'm just flying up over the trees. Just it's the weirdest dream.
That's going to serve you in your ascension somehow. One of my dreams, one of my superpower dreams, is I can breathe underwater. I have this experience where all of a sudden I'm underwater, and I'm like, oh no, and then all of this, I remember this. No, you can breathe underwater. Like it always happens in the dream, and then I take my first breath. And so I think that in whatever ascension experience I'm going to have, I think that the being submerged in water is going to be part of my story. But I always have to remember that all I have to do, you got it. You can breathe underwater. And maybe who knows what this realm really is. But there's a reason we cannot choose our dreams. We can't choose them. We cannot choose our dreams. And we can't choose our gifts. Whatever we're gifted with, we can't choose it. And so there's something very special about our dreams, and the fact that, we're all haunted with like super hyper specific dreams that are custom tailored to our physical form as well, like our experiences and our physical form and our bodies and our emotions, our emotional states, and our true selves, our dreams. I think dreams are the dreams and deja vu. They're so misunderstood. Like nobody can figure out dreams or deja vu. Yeah. I love it because everybody has it. Everybody has dreams. Everybody has these deja vu experiences, but we cannot, the life of us, explain what is going on with either of them. Really, I mean, there's a million sleep studies, but nobody can really figure out dreams.
Yeah. You have deja vu all the time.
Oh my gosh!
She always has deja vu.
So what?
And it's from dreams.
What do you feel? Do you feel it in your body, like in your stomach, or?
So I dream about things because I remember my dreams, and it's always like really. It's never anything really cool. It's always random stuff, and so it'll be like. Before I take a job somewhere, I'm working somewhere, and I'm like, oh, I had this weird dream, and I'm like in this weird office, and like a computer, and there's this woman there talking to me, and then fast forward 3 years later, and I'm there, and I'm in that moment, and it's like, like this weird shock in my body, and it's like a little buzzer. You know, like a little, when you shake somebody's hand, they have a little buzzer, that vibration. But it's like that, like in my gut and just like throughout my body, and it hits me. And there have been times where I'm actually like, so-and-so's going to walk by and hand me a paper. And it happens. And I'm calling it.
Interesting.
And I'm just I'm not fucking crazy. Because I just called
You're not crazy. I have a similar experience with a precognition, premonition, where I will experience a place, a scene, so to speak, before it happens, and then it just happens exactly as that, and I just have to watch it and go, like, it could freak me out, but I'm used to it now, and or like I'll check in on someone and I'll say a very specific thing, and they're like, I can't believe you just said that, because someone else just sent me this, and like it'll connect. Like it's almost like I get I'll have these like feelings of like, oh, I need to reach out to this person, or I need to do this very specific thing. I don't even know why, but I just feel called to do it.
Yeah.
And then it usually is received or responded to with, it's so weird that you did that because I was doing this, and it's almost like through space and time, I'm getting this signal, almost this like magnetic drawing, this magnetic field that I'm picking up on, and other people are picking up on. And it doesn't even have to do with proximity, because this is like Twitter stuff too. Yeah. I'll have these synchronicities, and like someone will be researching like something for me, or I'll be researching something for someone, and we'll be talking about something very specific, and then the next minute it's like, the first thing that comes up in my news article is something like that is exactly what we've been talking about, and it makes me feel like the machines just like hanging out, listening to what I'm saying all day.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Like listening as if like my stuff is important.
Yeah, no, but it is because like we'll record a podcast and then we'll air it, and then that same week other podcasts talking about the same thing, and it's like we didn't know. It's not like we planned this.
No, you can't plan it. It's in the air. It's in the ether. It's in the air. People say it's the Bader-Meinhof frequency illusion. I don't believe that. I don't think it has anything to do with an illusion. I think that it really is the world seems to be really big, but I think the world is really small, and I think your awareness like brings things closer to you, and so you really are inviting these things into your life. It's not just that you learn about something and then see it everywhere.
Yeah.
It's that you become aware and interested in something, and then your mind becomes a magnet for that thing, and you draw that thing into your life, and that can be good, that can be bad. You know, you can draw some good things in your life, we can talk about things in your life. But I think it's interesting to share synchronicities with others. That's when they really start becoming freaky, is when because you can experience a synchronicity on your own with something that you're looking into, and you see it in your life, and you're like, oh, that's so cool. But then when you're like sharing a synchronicity with someone else, it's like, did you see that too? You know, it's almost like this confirmation that it's like, I'm not crazy.
Right.
But you know, maybe a little bit. You know, maybe I'm a little bit. That's okay.
I'm a fun kind of crazy.
Yeah, I was just a little sprinkle of crazy. Which is fine. I'm happy with that.
It's fun time though.
Yeah, it keeps things interesting.
Yes. Absolutely.
That's
Thank
awesome.
you so much for taking the time to come on to our
This
show.
was awesome.
This was so much
What a great
fun.
time.
We're gonna have to do this again.
Yes.
I would
sure.
love to.
Yes.
I would love to. I would love to see what your audience thinks about kind of these types of discussions, and whatever you guys want to talk about. I'll talk about anything.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
I just love the way your brain works too. It's very rare that I interact with people that can even question the narrative of JFK, and not just even question the narrative of JFK, but question the Constitution of JFK.
We think he's not real.
I mean, that to
This
me
is
now.
for real. And I
Yeah.
never know when I'm going on a podcast that the level of I wouldn't even. It's not intelligence. It's just some.
I want to say wavelength.
It's a disbelief. It's an ability to suspend the accepted narratives and the accepted beliefs, and just kind of play outside, play in the corners that don't get played in. Yeah, it's fun and it's rare. So I love that you have created a space, and both of you have created a space to allow me to talk about some of the things I talk about, which are kind of out there, and for meeting me, not just halfway, but like giving me so much to build upon and to work on and to think about for moving forward. And I can't wait to talk to you guys again.
Awesome.
No, thank you.
Sure.
You are on the right path. Please
Yes.
keep doing what you are doing.
Absolutely.
Thanks, guys.
All right.
And we're back. So, wow. Yes, mind blown.
Mind blown.
Just wow.
Kind of like fake JFK's head.
Yeah.
Sorry, too soon?
Yeah. I mean, and that's actually something that I forgot to mention when we were talking, and we had the pleasure of speaking for like another half hour, 45 minutes after we were done the interview. And just great conversation. One of the things that I forgot to mention was, with the whole JFK thing, President Trump declassified a bunch of the documents, but there were some documents they didn't declassify. So they didn't do a full declass. There was still some stuff that was missing, and there was still stuff that was really heavily redacted. So I wonder if they even have that there, you know what I mean? That this was all just a big psyop on everybody. Is that even something that the government would even keep a record of, do you think? Do
you think they just put black bars to make it look like there's something there when there's nothing there?
It could very well be. Who knows? It's I don't know. But that's something to think about too. Like, do these people that are carrying out these operations, that are doing these things, do they keep records of it? It makes you think, like, well, yeah, you would think they would, for their people in the know
I would
to
think
have
maybe they
reference points for things, but it makes you wonder.
If they did, I don't think that's where they would keep it in like government files. I think it would
It's
be
in the Vatican somewhere.
in the basement of the Vatican.
Basement of the Vatican, yeah. Yeah, who knows? But yeah, that was something that I forgot to mention, was because there are documents declassified and everything, but there's still portions that were not released. Why? So I don't know. Just again on the JFK thing, but
we're gonna have to have her back on because there were so many other things that we wanted to bring up, and then we totally forgot because we kind of just got in a conversation.
But you know what?
It was great.
That's why it was so great. Yeah, because I jotted some things down. We talked about a couple of things, but when the conversation goes in a that's when you know you're having a great conversation, when it can go for as long as it did. And some of the stuff we talked about, we had planned on asking about, but then other stuff, just the conversation went in other directions that were so fascinating that it didn't even matter that stuff didn't come up. And again, it's just food for another time, right? It's
we're going to have her on again. Just the energy I was feeling. I was telling her, I feel like my vibration, I'm so excited. My energy is moving so fast. It's like a hummingbird. The way they flap their wings so fast. That's what it feels like. I'm just like, I'm so excited.
Yeah, just a very, very awesome time. We hope that you all enjoyed the interview with Jay as well. What a great interview. Can't say it enough. And a great person. Like, wow, just a great person. Mm-hmm. Really, really glad that we connected. Yeah. And looking forward to speaking to her again more in the future, for sure.
I gotta give props to Alex because he was like, I want her on the show. And I'm like, okay. Yeah. And I'm like, let's just send her a message on Twitter.
I had heard her on other podcasts, and she just seemed, so... Like, I want to talk to this person, and she just gave off that vibe.
And what was the podcast that you heard her on?
Well, she was on Sam Tripoli's Tinfoil Hat podcast and the Hold Up, Wait a Minute podcast, which has had a lot of great guests on there, too, that I've discovered. Other people that I'd love to reach out to in the future as well.
So find her on these podcasts. And anywhere she's been on a podcast, because after we were recording, she was saying, it's not always the same thing she's talking about, and there are these different conversations. So go and listen so you can get an opportunity to hear what else she's saying and what else she has to say.
Just a lot. Yeah, she just has so much knowledge, and the way that she, again, articulates things and some of the ideas that she shares. They're just very, again, you don't have to agree with them, but I think just getting that perspective, especially now where everything is so just everybody's negative about, whatever, current events and everything, if you're buying in all that crap. I think it's just a refreshing point of view, and it's just, for me, a very welcome point of view. And it's pretty cool that we also see things kind of on the same level. And honestly, I was a little, and I didn't mention this to her or to you before, but I'll share it now. I was a little intimidated beforehand, just because I was like, I don't know how I'm going to be able to hang with this person, talking about some of these things. But I feel like we had a good conversation. I was doing a lot of listening and just being like, yep, whoa, okay, uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah, just, so, I was a little intimidated. I'm not now, but just what a great conversation. So, we hope that you guys enjoyed it.
We hope y'all enjoyed it,
because it was a lot of fun for us.
And you can follow her on Twitter @HumanVibration.
Yes, and we'd love to hear from you guys and what you think about everything. And if you've got any maybe thoughts on some of the stuff that we talked about, and we'd love to hear from you guys. You know that. So you can follow us on Twitter
@HomewreckerPod.
We are on
Minds. Yes, that's it. Homewrecker Podcast.
You can go to our website,
homewreckerpodcast.com.
And for you, they can find you
on Twitter @_Monique Giselle_. So that's MoniqueGisele. And I also have an Etsy shop, Wonders by Monique, where I have my organite and I have tarot readings. I just started offering, it's called Intuitive Guidance Session with Tarot. So it's an hour-long session where we just talk and I listen and I pull cards to see what's going on. It's very laid back and it's actually pretty fun. So if you're interested in that, you can schedule that appointment and you can go to my website, tarotbymonique.com. And what about you, Alex? Why don't you share your info?
So I don't know if anybody heard that, but there was a little bit of static in my ear there. Sorry about that. Yes, I am on Twitter as well. I'll probably start tweeting a little bit more, but I told you before, I don't like going on there because I get just sucked in and then it's like, I'm on my darn phone all the time, and I don't like being on my phone all the time.
Get out of your hand.
So you can follow me there, though. I am at the Alex Arion, and of course you can go to alexarionfitness.com and check out what I have to offer there if you're looking to get in shape or anything like that. Go on over there and get started.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do it.
So yeah. And actually, I don't think I've ever mentioned it on the show before, but I have a podcast that I do too that I actually just started up recording again. And I didn't even think I told you this. Maybe I did. I don't know. I don't think I did.
I don't know what you're getting to.
I started yesterday, as a matter of fact, recording when I finish my walk. I record for like about 10-15 minutes, just my thoughts and stuff that I'm thinking about.
That is awesome.
That's just kind of coming to me as I'm doing my backwards walking, and I will finish my 2,000 steps. Supposed to do 2,000 steps, and then I'll pull out my phone and I'll hit the record button, and I'll just record whatever I'm thinking about, whatever's coming to me. And I think I went about 10 minutes yesterday, about 15 minutes today, or vice versa. And I'm putting them out there.
I love it.
So you can find that, and it's the A2G2 show, Alex Arion. Just put Alex Arion in your podcast search engine, and you'll find it there. So yeah, check that out too. If you like hearing me, you don't have to, but
I like hearing you.
Oh, well, thank you so much. So yeah, check that out too, and until next time. Man, I can't get over how awesome this show was.
YouTube.
Oh, that's
Brighteon
there we go.
and BitChute. So
that's right.
If you want to be a watcher, you can find us on YouTube, Brighteon, BitChute. Subscribe and like our videos, please. And if you would be so inclined, give us a 5-star review on iTunes or wherever you leave reviews for podcasts. Please and thank you.
Yeah, and hit that subscribe button too.
Yeah.
That way you know when new stuff comes out, when we get awesome, exciting guests, or when we're talking about just whatever we want to talk about. You'll be the first to hear about it and get it if you're subscribing. So do that too if you don't mind. But until next time, I'm still just really so pumped. Until next time, I am the Golden Greek Alex Arion. I've been joined as always by my beautiful, lovely, look at that smile. It's amazing. My gorgeous, amazing, tremendous trophy wife, the lovely Monique.
And you've been listening to the Homewrecker podcast.